All right, so we're going to get started and just welcome everybody. Please let us know. Please let us know who you are, why you're here in the chat. And we are going to go ahead and start our slideshow and introductions. And you are a central part of this workshop, so we really want to hear from you. So here we go. So welcome, my name is Tracy Burt and I coordinate an apprenticeship called SF Educators Rising. It's a para-apprenticeship for para-educators working in special education in early childhood and elementary school. It's based out of San Francisco. And we decided to host this conversation because Kim, Joya, and I are really passionate about supporting people who want to start apprenticeships. We see this as a major and essential strategy for building our diverse teacher workforce and really supporting people from the beginning of their careers as they come through community college. And we have so many talented students in community college, and any support we can give them is amazing, right? And being in a position to be able to give support is a blessing and a privilege. So it's definitely a labor of love, and it's something that I am really enjoying doing with my time. I really love it. So the title is From Soup to Nuts, Building an ECE/EDU Apprenticeship, Tales from the Field, a Conversation. So the students make it worth it. This was our last professional learning community, and we had people here we have a community partnership with Kingmakers of Oakland. That's KO from Kingmakers, who's done teaching pathway work across the country, but especially in Portland and Seattle, where they have like 270, I think, people in their teaching credential or teaching certificate pipelines. It's a certificate up there. And I think 70% of them are BIPOC. So he's a really good resource and can help, he helps us with capacity building. At this PLC, we had 3 different people present from transfer institutions. So this is Jason, who works with the special ed SF Scholars Program at San Francisco State. This is Logan. He works with our integrated teacher education program in liberal studies for elementary school teaching. And Savannah, who works for San Francisco State's Child and Adolescent Development Department and their pre-K to 3 credential, which is brand new and very exciting. So let's see. So we're just going to briefly introduce ourselves, and then we each have a few slides just to show you some of the kind of an overview of each of our apprenticeships, or provide some resources we think might be helpful as you're thinking about starting an apprenticeship. So I've been teaching in child development for a little over 20 years, which is wild to say. I guess that's 22 years. And I'm just really passionate about inclusive education. I'm about building community. And one of the things I love about the apprenticeship, I get to build community with amazing, passionate educators, and it's really meaningful. And when people tell me that they stayed in their job and they stayed in the field because of the supports they've gotten, and I've heard that a number of times, I feel so happy about that. To keep amazing teachers in the field is so important. So for me, apprenticeship is not only a pipeline into the program in terms of recruiting people into the profession, which of course we need to do, but it's also a retention strategy. And I honestly would rather focus more on retention, because I know in San Francisco Unified, before the pandemic, it looks about the same now, but we were hiring 300 paraeducators a year and we were losing 300 paraeducators a year. So it's like we got to stop the revolving door. And we know that about half the new teachers don't make it through the first 4 years, depending on which stats you look at. So we want to be part of that at the beginning, building that retention. And I'm so glad that Kelly's here from teaching residencies, so we can, I'd love to talk more about that if that ends up making sense today. So that's me. Joya, how about you?
Of course. Thank you so much, Tracy, for the wonderful introduction. It's such an honor to be in this space with you all today. I'm Dr. Joya Chavarrin. I'm currently the faculty coordinator at Berkeley City College. That's a city near UC Berkeley in Northern California. And we currently serve the coursework for 3 apprenticeship programs: our expanded learning, which is out of school time before and after school programming. We also have an early educator with our local employers serving primarily birth to 5 programs. And then we have a youth apprenticeship, which calls themselves named by our wonderful apprentices, the Oaktown Leaders Youth Apprenticeship.
Awesome.
And I have the joy of teaching the classes and orienting the faculty. And I am passionate about this work because we are literally growing our own that is reflective of our community. I do feel like when you provide the education and the supportive services that apprenticeship programs typically provide and should, if you're thinking about it from an equity lens, not only do you allow for our apprentices to complete and then increase their career opportunities, but they also change the trajectory of their families. And I feel like I'm a living, breathing example of that because I was a young mom and Head Start, and I have 4 children. And if it wasn't for the opportunity of education and career opportunities, as well as mentors, which we'll hear a lot more about in this session of what makes an apprenticeship tick, I wouldn't be able to be on this Zoom with you today. So I'm very passionate and very thankful and grateful, and believe education is an act of liberation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kim, and I'm looking forward to being with you all.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Joya.
you.
And I appreciate your introduction and that of Tracy's, because we are successful, I think, because we are connected and we remain connected because of the work, but mainly because of the people and the relationships that we've built. And so my background is in early childhood education and lifespan human development. I also work at Cabrillo College for ECE and education departments, but I also am a clinical coach with Cal State Monterey Bay. And so Tracy, take it from here.
Great. Thank you, Kim and Joya. It's great to have you both here. So, and I just would like to say, Jess wasn't able to join us. She really would have liked to be here, but she sends her best. So Jess works for Beacon, and she is in the process of, they're in the process of birthing a new youth worker apprenticeship in San Francisco, which is exciting, but they're hoping to launch next spring. So our goal today is to have a conversation about starting, developing, and maintaining an apprenticeship in an early childhood or EDU spaces. And I should have added special ed. So see, special ed is so often an afterthought. So even though it's like my focus, I still forgot to put it on our goal slide. And special ed crosses both, right? Crosses all educational spaces. So the basic 3 components of an apprenticeship are that students have a paid job, they have navigational supports, mentoring, and community, and they go to community college with free tuition and fees. So there are some, now I've heard talk about apprenticeships at BA programs, which would be amazing because, you know, our vision at SF Educators Rising, I know we all share this, is a tuition-free streamlined pathway to teaching that's supported to get us the great teachers that we need from our community that reflect our students and families in our schools. So one of the things that I learned pretty quickly is that no matter how many times you tell people it's an apprenticeship and it's a paid job, people always call it an internship. And it's just like, I think people are much more familiar with that. So I find it very helpful to just always like kind of have this slide in any presentation I do, talk about the fact that it's a paid job in any, you know, in most of my conversations, early conversations with people. So people understand that it's not an internship. It's not an unpaid volunteer situation, etc. So that's one of the reasons I included it here to start. And so here are some of the things I thought we might talk about today if you're curious about. So inside the paid job, you have an employer partner in an apprenticeship or multiple employer partners. Both of your programs, you have multiple. We have one, we have San Francisco Unified, but it has so many different schools we could work with. So it's sort of like having multiple employers with one HR department that coordinates all of it. So that's a whole it's a whole nut to crack in itself. So there's you have to build employer buy-in, which includes union engagement, and unions have to sign off. And really, it's really important and helpful to have folks in the union at the very beginning stages of your apprenticeship. So mentoring, usually employers find mentors. So in traditional apprenticeships, like in the trades, like electricians or plumbing, there's usually a one-to-one. There's a journeyman who's mentoring an apprentice, and they're together the whole time. For education, it doesn't work that way. It's not it's not the model that it doesn't fit for our model. So like in our program, we have, each of our mentors has 6 mentees. So every apprentice has a mentor who's an experienced paraeducator at SFUSD, and they can help them. People need help to negotiate SFUSD because sometimes they don't get paid correctly, or they have benefits that they need to know about. They have questions about transferring to a different school. If you quit before you transfer, you have to reapply again. So there's like start the whole process over, and you lose seniority. And so there's all these things that they know, and they're both active in the union. So that I would never know as in my role at community college. So they really mentor them also with on the job suggestions about working with kids and often working with colleagues. There need to be, wages need to meet a certain minimum. That's the hourly wage plus benefits, and it's different by county. Ours is around $21 or $22 an hour in San Francisco. And then there need to be raises integrated into their workplace. So for us, it's like they get, every time they have a year anniversary, they get a wage, and it does align with their courses, but not directly. But in a lot of programs, once you earn, like say, a certificate, then you might get a pay bump. So that needs to be part of an apprenticeship. So I'll jump over here to community college. So the free tuition and fees is amazing, but you have to get the college buy-in. And at our college, that means multiple different departments have to understand the ed code and change the bureaucracy that says that we would never put students' fees on hold. Well, we're honestly, I don't even know if I should say this on the recording. We're still figuring this out, even though it's our 4th year. So we didn't get the right kind of buy-in from the institution at the beginning. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm excited to be here and talk to people. I talk to people a lot who are starting, because I can tell them, like, here's what I wish we did at the beginning that we didn't do, that I thought would be a lot simpler than it is. But as we know, working with institutions and bureaucracy is never simple. So we really have to start off and like get a lot of people in the discussion. So for me, the most important part of this is really developing cohorted courses and courses that are aligned. So everybody has standards that usually in California, it's the Department of Apprenticeship standards. There's also the Federal Department of Labor. So you have a set of courses that you put into your standards, and the work on community college campuses is developing the cohorted classes. So there might be a reserved seating system or something like that. Sometimes if there's an external sponsor, we're sponsoring as the LEA. Most of the time employers sponsor the apprenticeships, and then they might buy out classes. That's another option. We're really working on using the supports and connecting with supports that already exist on campus, although we'd love to have more funding for additional supports. And I'll just say that the cohorts are so amazing. It's really amazing to watch the students support each other and hold each other accountable and build relationships. And then like in the summer, we have mini cohorts in the summer, but students are planning their study groups and how they're going to support each other. And that is really important in a learning community. And so in the center, this is my favorite part, is just the community, retention, and love. And I really, I know it might sound trite, but the truth is like, that's what our educators that's what we need. We need a community that appreciates people, that creates an inclusive community based on love and accountability, and like being in community together and holding ourselves up together, right? And moving ourselves forward in our communities together. And everyone who's a paraeducator has to be, especially at least if you're in the apprenticeship program, you have to be passionate about what you're doing. There's no way to stay in that job without being passionate. So, and then the other part that's sort of underlying these 3 things is coordinating the apprenticeship. So that's working with DIS, and there's a lot of other coordination duties, and some people do that themselves. Like that's what we're doing it ourselves. But what's the opposite of recommend? I do not think you should do that. I think you should work with someone like ECEPS or Launch, which Kim and Joya can talk about. So they're an intermediary, and we're probably going to try to work with an intermediary because the way we're doing it is not sustainable. All right, so that's just sort of designed to be, an overview. and we're going to do sort of mini introductions of our programs. And the idea is that we want to give you a sense of what we're doing so that you can follow up with us if you have questions, but really give you a sense so that you can ask us questions when we're done. So please be thinking of what questions you want to ask any of us, and they can be for all three of us. They could be for one of us. So I'm going to pass it to you, Joya.
Of course, and thank you. Let me know if I freeze Tracy by thumbs up. Something's going on with the internet. And I realized the slide, these acronym uses, that's Oakland Unified School District, should have been spelled out. But again, I'm with Berkeley City College. These are our employer partners as it relates to our extended learning, our youth apprenticeship, and our early educator apprenticeship. And go on. And I'm just going to briefly talk about each one, but you'll see the details on the slides as well as my contact information if you have any follow-up questions. Take it away, Tracy. Thank you. All right. I love it. Dual screen.
Yeah, I did a dual screen and now I don't know how to
where it is. Story of
All right,
story of my life.
It's gotta be here somewhere.
That's
Give me a second.
I just appreciate you doing the slides. Thank you.
Well, hopefully I know. Okay, did it work? Wait, there we go. I think.
Oh, it's not moving. I wish that's a good feature.
I'm gonna unshare and then I'm gonna share again. Let me share again.
Perfect. Perfect. Don't get to choose our response. It's all good.
Okay, let's see. Let me try this. Let's see. All right, there we go.
Awesome. And so this breaks down the pre-apprenticeship, which is typically for our dual enrollment students, but we also welcome our Head Start parents, our adult school, those who are just trying to figure out a career change, not quite sure if they want to go into early childhood or not. And so this is specifically in this interdisciplinary, so meaning more than one discipline for them to explore working with children and families. For this particular program, we give them a taste in each of the classes that count for your degree, because we do want you to get your certificates and degrees, but it also counts for industry certification where they'll earn a child development assistant and associate teacher permit from the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. So if you notice, for example, my ECE people, they'll take the child growth and development, which is a social science class, sociology of the family, which is also a social science class. They'll get some work occupation exploration over the summer. And then they'll take children's literature one semester. That's humanities, GE requirement for my counseling people. And then introduction to ed, which is an elective. And again, they're getting the units and they're also getting paid. We have multiple funding sources where our youth get paid for each class they take, as well as get paid to work with youth over the summer. All right, next slide. I won't spend this much on each slide, but this is our foundation and then it's stacked. So those first 12 units lead to the NET certificate, which is teacher aid. So all of our early educator and expanded learning take that first set of units, but many times these folks sometimes come in with lots of units. And this is where I call my wonderfully messy group in a way, because we're always analyzing transcripts to make sure that folks don't have to duplicate the classes they've already taken. We want you to get out the fastest way you can with the least time spent and cost spent for you. So AA degree takes 60 units. BA degree takes 120 units. So this group is typically on their way to the AA degree, but it's aligned to the paraeducator standards of employment, which is 48 transferable units or passing that IA exam. But we give them all of the supports depending on what they express their goals are. And they work with wonderful after school children. And sometimes they're para in the morning. So we have some extended learning who are also paraeducators during the day. So wonderful, beautifully diverse group. And this is our first cohort in the picture. Next slide, Tracy. We're on the third cohort now, which is incredible. It's been really such a joy, but it launched in 2023. And this is our longest standing. I say 2015 is when we kicked it off, but we didn't know we were apprenticeship yet because apprenticeship wasn't around. But we've got the first California Apprenticeship Initiative grant back in 2018. So that's when it was officially an apprenticeship. And so what was fun with this group is that, again, they're starting with their 12 units, but guess what? Head Start requires a BA degree according to the Head Start School Readiness Act. So not only do they have a tier 1 of 12 units, a tier 2 of an AA degree, but many of these wonderful, beautiful people you see in this picture, Ariel with the baby, whose child is like elementary age right now, they got their BA degree, and a couple of them, even their master's. And one of them is teaching at our college. So I just want to share with you the power of the support, the mentoring, the realization I can do it, and just showing you that we're literally growing our own, not just in the classroom, but also reflective in our faculty and community leaders. Because another one became an academic success coordinator. And it's just a joy because they start from, you know, really struggling, not thinking you can do it, to buying your first house. So the outcomes are just, it makes me want to do this work until I retire, until I'm out of here. So anyway, keep going, Tracy. And if you have questions, please put them. And these are all the support services we provide, which many of our programs do. We do it in collaboration with our employer partners. And again, we're multiply funded. Some funding comes from the college, the state, but a lot of our funding also is through our sector intermediary. We do work with ECEs, which Tracy was mentioning earlier, and it really helps us with the data collection and all of the things that are required to become an official and registered apprenticeship. And it has really taken off the load because I wouldn't know. Tracy, I don't know how you do it. I just think it would add a whole nother layer that would be very challenging for me as a full-time faculty member. So with that, I think that's it. But I just want to say I appreciate your time. If you have questions, put it in the chat. And if I leave a little early, my apologies. I am available. You have my email there. I'm actually at the airport and going to board a plane in a few minutes. So I just wanted to, I'm coming back from the National Apprenticeship Conference in Austin, Texas, which I will say, once you become a program, it's an incredible space to meet other people doing this work. So
Thank you, Joya.
that's great.
Thank you so much, and safe travels, Joya. Take care. Again, I'm Kim Sakamoto and Steidel, and I am working on ECE and EDU apprenticeships at Cabrillo College and with the sub-regional collaborative called Bridge. Next slide, please. And what makes our Bridge collaborative a little unique is that we work together with San Jose City College, who is our fiscal lead, Hartnell College, and Cabrillo College. And so together we serve Santa Cruz, Monterey, and Santa Clara counties. We're really fortunate because this small sub-regional collaborative has many strong partners like from Joya. We have San Francisco City College of San Francisco, Tracy, people who have been in the region and supporting us all through our journey, because it's new. Everything is new. Being in apprenticeship is new. Being in apprenticeship in education or early childhood education is not necessarily new, but it was new for us. And and so having people that we could reach out to and just check in with every once in a while really made the difference. Next slide, please. And so here's our timeline. We started out in 2020 just hearing about apprenticeship. We heard about it from Teach for LA when we go to the virtual conference. We learned about it from workshops, our regional Bay Area California Community College Regional Joint Ventures group with Adele Burns and Kathleen White. We're always there giving presentations and giving us just snippets of what apprenticeship might look like. Then trailblazers like Joya came in, and we were able to learn from Berkeley City College, not only how they work together within their own college, but how they worked with their city in building community partnerships. And then we connected with Tracy. We're so fortunate to have Tracy there, who was always brought us that large scale, this is exciting, this can really happen to you too, connection with educator preparation. And so I think it's important to see how all these pieces fit together. And so we received our education apprenticeship grant for teaching assistants in 2022. It took us a while, not because that there was anything wrong with our application, because there was a lot of turnover and many applications being screened by the Department of Apprenticeship Services. So while our application moved through, the system around it slowed down. So it's just something important to remember. Plus, we had the pandemic. Plus, there are also institutional ups and downs that were happening for everyone across the state of California. And so along with this, again, because we had kept an eye on our workforce reports from the centers of centers. What was the name? Tracy, what is the name of that group? The Centers of Excellence?
Yeah.
Center of Excellence has the LMI reports, but
Yeah.
the other one that you worked with,
Yeah,
that's Centers of
the
Excellence.
labor reports, they were
Mhm.
helping us to see what was happening in our region to help us inform inform our funding and inform our goals altogether. And so then we were able to make sure that students who move through not just with apprenticeship, but through educator preparation programs, we were able to see the impact that having a strong educator pathway program made. And so I worked with the Cabrillo to CSUMB uh, uh, program, and we had really great success. Unfortunately, the funding ended, and students when programs close, students often have to find their own ways of connecting to services and supports. And that's really tough. So it really helps to have an educator pathway program at every point, from the community college to the receiving institution. And that makes the stronger bridge. And so now we are facing funding cuts on a federal level as well. But again, it's the group that keeps us connected. Sorry, next slide, please.
Sorry.
Sorry, no. On the left, you'll see the apprenticeships that Cabrillo has. We have an EDU, an educator teaching assistant apprenticeship, and that's an implementation grant. And we have an early childhood education preschool teacher planning grant. On the right, you'll see what we've learned along the way. And this is what Tracy was talking about, in that having that being able to look in the rear view mirror and see what actually has worked and what hasn't. And so just very quickly, our first learning was that strong partnerships matter, but that's what Tracy was saying about having those strong internal partnerships within your own institutions are critical. You need to make sure that your departments, academic counseling, student services, financial aid, all of those different offices and programs are important to know about, because that will tell you what you're able to offer at your college, because each college has different initiatives and different programs, and that helps to define what you can provide to apprentices. And then next are making sure we have clear pathways to certification, degrees, and credentials. So we know that there are a lot that the landscape of education is changing today. And so we have transitional kindergarten, we have the PK3 credential coming along, and now we're hearing about art credential for studio artists teaching in schools, in K-12 schools. So there are changes again that are happening to the pathway, but it's important that we're monitoring those and making sure that those align so students don't get off track or have to be sidelined due to their choices. And so that's important to remember about apprenticeship. And then the final one is flexibility and innovation. And I do think that educator prep programs are in that league, because educator preparation programs help to ensure that that apprenticeship can meet the needs of diverse learners and be responsive to support students who are also apprentices. Apprenticeship is not for everyone, but certainly it creates opportunities and a structured pathway built best on a strong educator preparation program. And I wanted to give a special shout out to Leah Martinez, who's here with Rio Hondo, starting apprenticeship out in Southern California and always just being there. So thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Awesome. So, at City, we're SF Educators Rising, and it's a para apprenticeship. We're in special education, early childhood, and elementary. We started off in early childhood special education, and then we're expanding to elementary. And basically what that means for us is that we're incorporating and embedding special education and inclusive education competencies into our required coursework, as well as our the competencies that you have to develop as part of your standards. and I've been coordinating our special ed certificates and developed a few classes in special education probably a long time ago. I think it was almost 20 years ago. It doesn't feel like it could have been that. It was probably about that though. So we built around our certificate in special education, and at first we built everything was aligned towards our transfer degree in early childhood education, but now we have we've asked for an addition to our standards, and we turned it in August, and it's still in the queue. So we're waiting for the second the second set of classes to be approved for our associate degree of transfer for child and adolescent development, which is also a good match for elementary and special education. So I'm happy to get into the weeds about any of that stuff, with people individually, but hopefully it'll be through the queue relatively soon, because yeah, they're just really busy. So I decided, well, I guess, wait, before I go there, I'll just say that we were set to launch in 2020, and there were 600 interns in the dual enrollment program at San Francisco Unified in their educator pathways. And we were going to, really build with those folks in person and get them into, they were already going to be hired through SFUSD. So our goal was to get them into para positions. And of course, then the pandemic hit. So we paused the program and started again a year later. And we were not able to really engage the dual enrollment students. It wasn't a good fit for those of them that were interested. They were the ones that were ready to go to four-year colleges, and it just hasn't been what we had hoped. And it changed a lot because after COVID as well. And we still have that partnership, and we still outreach to students, but it hasn't been. We've only had a couple of students who've come through. I think we've actually only have one now. So we started recruiting from our own child development students, and for people who might be interested, or we might entice to be interested in becoming paraeducators. And a lot of the folks in our program who came through us were not thinking about being paraeducators. In fact, the folks that were thinking about being paraeducators kind of used our services to get in the door and become paraeducators. But then there were a few people who were like, well, I don't really need this program. I just really wanted to be a paraeducator, and I couldn't get in with the district. And that's fine, because what we want really good educators in the district, although I would have loved to have them in the program. But so it just we had three or four people the first year. Then the next year we went to 10, and now we have 20, and including a couple of people we were working with 7 people to get jobs at the district this year, and we were working with 22 total, but a couple of them have not been able to, get through that process. So we're around 20, and we decided that that's our capacity at this point. Although we're working on fundraising from private and public sources to kind of expand our capacity. So one of the things I was able to do this year is to create some documents that helped to really demystify the program for students, and not demystify, but really make it clear where they should go if they have a question. So a lot of the help that I end up providing is around admissions, applications, and registration. So whether it's reserve courses or just finding teachers that are a good fit, or, helping people get connected with counselors to make their ed plan. So this is just like more about how you should do what Joya and Kim talked about. Like beforehand, we would have loved to have a counselor who worked with us. Our college wasn't willing to do that for a number of reasons. So while I have a lot of relationships with counselors who are my colleagues, and so then I funnel people there, and then we do dual advising. So I go to their counseling appointments with them so that we can talk about the program and their major, and that works really well. So students end up with really good ed plans, and then our mentors are Janet and Carolyn, who, like I said, have been with SFUSD as paras for decades, and they're amazing. And they were also both part of birthing the apprenticeship. We met for about 6 years together before we were able to start the apprenticeship. And they're the ones you go to with these kinds of issues. And then we also have an employment specialist who can help people as they're looking for work. And Tina and I work really closely as we're supporting students in getting work at SFUSD. And what I will say is that our analysis is that it would be better if this was coming from the employer than us. I don't really think I mean, Tina could be there to support because we have her support, but our analysis of that is really that it should come from the employer. And the mentors also, it would be better that employers should be charged with identifying mentors and supervising them, etc. We have existing supports that we and folks that we refer people to, and sometimes they'll come to our professional learning communities if possible. So Wendy's an amazing early childhood advisor. So when people are looking for their permits or whether they can access ECE stipends, we send them to Wendy. Annie is our teacher prep advisor. So she talks to people about teaching pathways. And we have a lot of presentations about different teaching pathways too, because as Kim said, the landscape is always changing and it's complex. So to elementary, pre-K to 3, special ed. And I will say that the PLC, the picture I showed from the beginning, is people were so excited and inspired to meet the folks in the transfer institutions. And it was a very positive experience that inspired people and kind of, I think it increased their dedication to finishing their transfer degree. I will also say that we are really working on trying to build some supports once people get there. So like Kim said, in the receiving institution, to have this strong community at the community college and then not have it at the next stage is not great, right? We need to have both. And then that's where teaching residencies also might come in. Maybe that's too early for teaching residencies. And then we got AIF funding, which is Apprenticeship Innovation Funding last year, and we applied for it again. So that's basically funding that pays you for coordinating apprentices the year after, based on the data and how many apprentices you had. And so Jerica is an amazing part-time faculty member at City College. And so she's basically a lead faculty, so that the first 2 semesters in the program, they will have a class with her. And we found that it's really important for our students to have instructors who build relationships and have really individualized, responsive relationships with students and both support and challenge them. And then I just wanted to share, this is one of the documents I made this year, because I think it gives a sense of like the different stages of the apprenticeship and tracking that needs to happen. So I have an internal one that links in it. So, but these are just some of the things I want to remember at each stage of the apprenticeship and what we have to track and that kind of thing. And I just really believe we don't need to recreate the wheel. So you can access this spreadsheet. If these links are supposed to be live, but if they're not, I'm happy to send you one with live links so that you can see what we've done and then make it your own. So I think that's it for me. Yeah. And I think, well, it took us a lot longer than 5 minutes each, but it didn't seem like people had that many questions. So I think it worked out well. So let's see. Oh, Yvonne, I'm glad you like that. I can send it to you. I think I might have sent it to Leah, but I can send it to you with all those links so that you don't have to create them by yourself. But also, I think an intermediary might help with a lot of that stuff. So do we have questions or things people would like to talk about? Kelly, I'd like to, if no one else is going to jump in, I'd love to put you on the spot and just see what you think around, like, what are your thoughts as you're thinking about teaching residencies and apprenticeships? And I know you said they're kind of new to you. And so I would love to hear what you're thinking.
Sure. Thank you. Well, thank you all for letting me kind of jump in here. My colleague, he is in LA. I am on the East Coast in Washington, D.C. But unfortunately, he was not feeling well. So he knows that one, I'm working and interested in apprenticeships, but I also ran an early childhood teacher residency program in Washington, D.C. For 5 years. So definitely see the connectiveness, and just the need, you know, because the real goal of our registered apprentice, or sorry, our teacher residency program was to bring instructional aides through our charter school system and create positions for them to become
Nice.
teachers. But at NCTR, we are, you know, beginning to explore. I mean, we see the close alignment between registered apprenticeships and residencies. You know, we've done like a language map, and really the components are very similar, you know, a mentor teacher versus a journey worker. And so a lot of our programs are interested in figuring out ways to co-design an apprenticeship and a residencies at the same
Oh, very cool.
So we're working with some programs to do that. And we also have what we call a community learning experience, which is really like a PLC, where we bring the network of programs that we work with at NCTR together, and you know, volunteer opportunities to come and talk. So I've run that series, but it's very much beginning information just around like where to start, how to find your Department of Labor contact, thinking about the state you're located in, and some of these pieces that you all reviewed today. So I'm just grateful to hear about your 3 programs and learn and be in this space.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I don't personally have connections with folks. Well, I mean, I've made some, but I haven't really had the chance to really explore partnerships with teacher residencies. But like the idea of co-designing an apprenticeship with a teacher residency sounds amazing. And I think that is a really, you know, that could be a really fruitful way to support people throughout the pathway.
Absolutely. We work with Dallas College, and so they're a community college. A lot of the schools that we work with right now of ed are BAs or master level programs. And so Dallas is really one of our programs that has, you know, started in the community college space and has really looked to apprenticeship to do just that, to create that pipeline into 4-year degree schools and supporting that teacher pipeline.
Awesome.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, please.
Because actually, I don't know if I shared, but CCE actually serves as an intermediary program sponsor too for teacher apprenticeships. And so we're trying to do that with the folks out in LA. And I guess like my question is, because I heard you that, you know, it's been a lot to kind of do that role on your own, and you know, bringing on like programs like ECEPs and Launch has been helpful. I'm just wondering, like, what were the challenges and capacity wise, what was taking all the time, and how did these intermediaries kind of help with that
That's a good
process?
question. So I'm gonna pull up what the job description, and you'll see. Well, so the issue is, well, I don't know if I'm gonna pull it up right now, but I have too many screens up from like teaching last night and teaching tomorrow. For me, the challenge is, I felt like there's a pretty steep learning curve in terms of working with DAS, even though we had great consultants who were super helpful. It's just a lot. It's a lot of data coordination. It's a lot of data collection. And we have folks here helping us with that. But I, as the main person who interfaces with the students, I had to have, I can't, there's no way for me to really delegate it to anybody. So the data collection, doing the standards, making changes to the standards, meeting all the standards, like what are the rules and regulations, what's the summary rules and regulations, getting the standards signed, getting the you know, getting the forms signed, and getting the apprentices registered in the system is a whole thing. And there's one thing I just figured out. So when you register an apprentice, you shouldn't put, like, ours is a long program, it's 3 years. It doesn't actually matter from DAS's perspective if it takes longer, but it can only take 12.5% shorter. So I didn't really make that connection, even though they told me that, but they didn't say, so therefore, only put like 2 years if you think it's only going to take 2 years. I just always put 3 years because I thought, oh, I'll give them time. So then we couldn't complete people when they were done, if some people came in with extra classes, for example. So it's just like, and I'm like, I mean, I'm not slow on the uptake. You know what I mean? Like, it's really hard. I had no idea how hard that would be. So I feel like that's one thing, coordinating. I mean, it's just like, it's kind of like what people have as a full-time job to coordinate everything. So maybe Kim, you can say what was helpful, because you worked with two intermediaries. They worked with career ladders in like the sort of initiation
Yes,
phase
we work
and
with
then
career
launch.
wise, and I will just say it's super important to have a good fit between your program and your intermediary, because we had a great intermediary career-wise from Colorado. Their focus was youth and ours was on adult, and then they were working in the California space, and it was just a real challenge. And it wasn't for lack of trying, it was just so much more we needed to negotiate in terms of understanding, and then encountering some of the delays with DAS and just the new apprenticeship as is. So that's really important. We found a strong fit with launch, and that is because they had already worked in Southern California. They knew they have a flexible relationship. It's not a highly structured pathway. It is a structured pathway, but with flexibility. And that worked well for us in Santa Cruz County, because many of our students are coming in with already having taken community college coursework, or even they may have even gone on to four-year universities and then are going for like the PK3 credential. So they're willing to flex with us. We also have another group, and it seems like a lot of groups to work with, but I think that's part of apprenticeship, is learning to work with multiple partners and just trying to get adept at doing that. And so we work with a group called Network Connections with Eric Briggs, and what they do is they'll come in and they provide support with kind of on the ground, what do you need, and then they go and get the information, and that has helped countless times. And so they've built multiple apprenticeships, but within those multiple apprenticeships at our community college, they have provided different types of support and different levels of support, so it's as needed, and that makes a big difference too. So I can't even imagine what Tracy has done, and I feel like if we should only have that much capacity, brain capacity, and then that level of skill and expertise to navigate all those pieces, I think the benefit of doing that is you get to drive it in the direction that you want, in terms of developing the program and having it be super responsive to student needs. But I think there is going to be a point at which you will need to transition and hand some of those pieces off. And now you know what is involved. You can have oversight over it, but you don't have to be the one doing it.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it's hard. It's complicated sometimes to get coordination time. So I've had 20% time for the first 3 years for coordinating the program. And I have 30% now. And I'm doing pathways work, which I have 20s, which is, it's kind of like a Venn diagram. So, and I still feel like I can't do it anymore. I mean, I'm not going to be able to do this for very much longer. So we're doing some things like instead of us, like I think I alluded to, but we're going to ask SFUSD to have principals nominate current paras. We're going to, so basically what I should be focusing on is what I know the institution, I know faculty, I can coordinate things in the institution, like getting reserved seats. And
Right.
like, those are the kinds of things I should be doing. Plus for me, it's what Kim said, like I did get to really create a culture of the program, and I'm like, I love it. I mean, I feel like the students are like family, and like I get to work with students over time, which is really fun. And so I'm gonna have to let go of some of that too eventually, because I'm like always talking to them at night, and it's like I love it, but it's I mean, it's obvious it's not sustainable, and it's like it's not institutionalized. So we're going to also be pursuing an intermediary. We're looking at our options. We'll be looking at that in the fall. And then hopefully they'll take that piece on, and that will allow us also to maybe we can then expand a bit. We're going to be working with Beacon as like a secondary, not secondary, parallel path, I guess, so that if I'm doing that work with reserved seats and we have, I mean, ideally we'll get a counselor too. So we'll get funding for a counselor, and our counseling, I guess staff will have the capacity to do something like that. Cause anyway, yeah. It was fun. It's been an adventure. I have to say it's worth it, but it's not sustainable. Any other questions? We have about 5 more minutes.
I guess I have a question for
Yeah.
anyone out there, and just what have you heard about apprenticeship? What brought you to this? What brought you here? And if you can go on audio, we'd appreciate it, or go on camera, we'd appreciate it, or in the chat. Just what kind of sparked your interest about apprenticeship?
Hi, I'm in the field of, my name is Tia. I'm
Hi,
in the
Tia.
field of early education, so I wanted to know how can apprenticeships help me? I've never really heard of that before, so that's what brought me to this.
Nice.
I really appreciate that. And can you tell us a little bit about where you are
Yeah.
on your pathway?
Okay, I'm feeding my baby. She's 1 month old, so you might hear her in the
Oh,
back.
congratulations.
But I just received my child development BA last year. I'm currently going back to went back to Bakersfield online to get to finish my sociology degree. So far I have a master's teacher's permit. Um uh, I was assistant teaching. I used to work for Long Beach Unified School District as a child care worker. I did some other teaching as an assistant or slash teacher at another daycare, child care careers. You might have heard of them. But right now I am interested in an education specialist. And I'm also interested in the PK3 credential. So I'm just trying to figure out my pathway, like which I got so many things that I want to do. So I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do first. But my ultimate goal is to be a counselor for young children and adolescents. But I do like teaching.
Can you tell us what your area is? Like, I guess we're trying to connect
Like
you
in
with
LA,
the
you mean?
local community
Oh, Los
college.
Angeles. Los Angeles.
Angeles?
Mhm.
Like Los Angeles, Long Beach, downtown,
South Central.
South Central. Okay.
Mhm.
I lived in South Central. Just outside, just a little East LA. And so East LA
Mhm.
college might have those resources for you. I know Long Beach does, because Long Beach has a strong educator prep program. And
They
and
might know a lot of like credential information and sort of if there are any teaching residencies, because it sounds like you're pretty far along your path. You have a ton of
yeah.
experience. So apprenticeship
Mhm.
usually is for people who are a bit earlier, but a
Oh,
teaching
okay.
residency
Yes.
might be another,
Yeah, that's what I was
thing to
also looking into, but I'm trying to find some good resources and services. So if you guys have any links or suggestions, please give them to me.
I'll put Megan Kaplinski, because Megan Kaplinski has also been the president of ACTEP, the Association for California Community College Educator Preparation Programs, and it is in Long Beach, but she can reach out to refer you to someone close to you. And she can help to connect you. It's important to have someone to be able to, it can be at a community college or four-year university, to have somebody to kind of go with you on your journey and figure out where you are, and to screen your transcript to see what you've done and what your next step might be. And if you're not connecting with anyone, I'll put my email in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me, and we'll have our group, look at it. So we have a big network. That's what's really wonderful about this work.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I think that that's a really good, like, just reach out to, we'll try to find the right person for you if we're not the right person.
Sure.
So, yeah. Thank you for sharing, Tia. Does anybody else want to share before it's about time to end? Maybe, well, you